My test. Okay, testing. Yeah. Greetings. Normally, I do this during the week when the house is not quite so active. So you're going to hear some background noises coming in here because it's the weekend. But this week was just really, really busy. Many things going on. But yeah, each week I sit down in meditation with the chart and kind of roll it backwards and forwards through the week. And a consideration with my planetary buddies to come up with a dialogue or a language that they want me to share with you. And so as I do that, I go through the process of writing down what it is that is transpiring so that I can present it to you. And so what I do when I sit here, first of all, we have to get this thing aimed in the right direction. Let's go share the chart. Here's the chart of the current, well, not the current. This is the chart for Monday. And on Monday, as you can kind of see looking here at the chart, we're going to be going into the next new moon, which will be happening here at, let's see, yeah, I've got it written down. Get over to my writing part of the equation. Celestial Chatter, January 31st to February 6th. We're coming to the close of the first month of the year, and it's been an active consideration astrologically. And as the year unfolds, you're going to see that this continues to be the case. Once a month, the sun and the moon, they dance together. And we refer to this as the new moon. The newness refers to the beginning of any cycle. And in this case, it's the lunar initiation for the next journey around the zodiac. More often than not, these new moons occur in the next sign each month. But every once in a while, the 31-day month can include two lunar moons, one at the beginning of the month and the other at the end. Yeah, we're not in that kind of cycle currently, but I just thought I'd throw it in there. As a matter of fact, the new moon on Monday the 31st will happen near the potent cross-quarter point of 15 degrees of Aquarius. These cross-quarter or halfway points between the seasonal beginnings of spring at 0 degrees Aries, summer at 0 degrees Cancer, fall at 0 degrees Libra, and winter at 0 degrees Capricorn. These are the foundations of Western tropical astrology. But these are the beginnings of all the cardinal signs, with the cross-quarter points being the center of each of those quadrants around 15 degrees of all the fixed signs of the zodiac. Back before there was a clocked life cycle, and it took over, these cross-quarter times were celebrated as halfway points in any season. Imbolc symbolizes the halfway point between winter solstice, that's the 0 degrees Capricorn, and the spring equinox at 0 degrees Aries. The word Imbolc means in the belly of the mother, because the seeds of spring are beginning to stir in the belly of Mother Earth. And the term oy milk means use milk. If you want to look up all the other cross-quarter points, just Google them, because the next one that happens between the spring equinox and the summer solstice is Beltane, a pagan holiday. And in between the summer solstice and the fall equinox is something the Wiccans used to call Lugnushaj or Lamas. And then between the fall and winter solstice, it's Samhain, or pronounced Samhain. Anyway, you can look those up and get your meanings. We're going toward the Imbolc time for this particular new moon. The actual Imbolc is, I think, around February 4th or 5th. As with every new moon, we are tasked, should we care to participate, in setting intentions to focus the upcoming lunar cycle on. Since this one begins in Aquarius, the potential for innovation and inclusion at the some level of other aspects of the human family are also on the table. We're nearing the end of the current Mercury retrograde cycle, so are there any inventions that you have come up with that during this time of deeper pondering here, contemplate this. Here's the Sabian symbol interpretation from Dane Rudhyar's An Astrological Mandala to meditate upon as this upcoming new moon to possibly assist in determining what to include in your intentions. Hang on here a second. One of the reasons that I stopped is that as I was just glancing at the astrological chart for what is transpiring. Hang on a second, we got to get that chart back. I was noticing that, that sun is kind of near the end of the degree, and in considering it, I had thought, well, the new moon's going to take place at 12 degrees. And, being as Mercury's retrograde, I had one of those Mercury retrograde moments where I looked up the degree for 12 degrees in Dane Rudhyar's Astrological Mandala book. And what I really needed to aim for was 13 degrees, which is because 12 degrees is the 13th degree, because when I shifted the chart forward, I did notice that the new moon actually took place on the 12 degree mark, which is the 13th degree. But just for giggles, I'm going to throw in that, just the image from the 12th degree, or from 12 degrees before we go look at 13 degrees. Here's the image. On a vast staircase stand people of different types graduated upwards. And the keynote to that is the necessity of recognizing differences of types and levels of development wherever human beings live and work together. But the degree for the new moon, which is 13th degree, division is a barometer. The keynote for that is the ability to discover basic natural facts that allow us to plan in advance for action. Here, the further definition, and this is also from Dane Rudhyar's book, says, here we are no longer dealing with ascent or descent, but with natural laws which involve causal relationships and the passage of one natural condition into another. The barometer registers air pressure, and a change of pressure today gives some indication of what the weather will be tomorrow. In a sense, that is the modern scientific equivalent of the archaic prognostication through omens. Likewise, animals grow a more or less thick fur in early autumn according to whether the winter will be more or less severe. Planning for the near future is a possibility because the potential or seed of the future is already operating at the core of the present. This third symbol of the 63rd sequence tells us that it is most important to seek, by whatever means and at whatever level of consciousness, a knowledge of causal progression. In the broadest sense, this implies an awareness of cyclic processes, and this includes astrology. The key word is anticipation. I'm glad I noticed that difference before I went carrying on too far with this particular consideration. Because I have in my printed out, which I will change before I post it onto the website, I had the wrong degree. So looks like we're going to shift this version of the chart a little further forward, because the next aspect that I'm going to focus on, I have, there are astrologers that bring in so many considerations when they look at charts. But as you can see, I bumped the chart ahead to Thursday. So as we venture into February, the next planetary aspect to arouse my attention or our attention will be Mars, forming a sextile with Jupiter. You can kind of see Mars is up there in Capricorn and Jupiter's down there in Pisces. And this is on the Thursday, the 3rd. Now Mars, and Mars's action and energy, and that's kind of, well, it's still traveling out of bounds and will be until about the 12th of February. So even though it's moving through Capricorn, don't expect the usual Martian factors to proceed as expected, because out of bounds it's something that is, So anyway, I would not be surprised to see a lingering Sagittarian flavor in the way that Mars sparks things into action. The Capricorn ruler, which is Saturn, sits at the Imbolc degree in Aquarius. That's 15 degrees of Aquarius. Might there be vestiges of midwinter percolation under the surface to potentially have some plants prematurely send shoots up through the soil, sent on an adventure of new life? Capricorn's aim to establish some form of control, being stirred by this out of bounds Martian impulse to excel beyond the borders of limitation, could prove uncomfortable to the establishment. That's Capricorn, by the way. I might include some Saturn lore into this mix. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius. In Aquarius, there is where it currently is doing its 2.5-year stroll. We need to recognize that while it represents a container within which things can transpire, this air sign is the water bearer and will be pouring substance down into this container until it either flows over the rim or Saturn decides to become larger to encompass this more that is available. The Mars aspect with Jupiter, ruler of both Sagittarius, where Mars recently arrived from, and Pisces, where Jupiter currently is traveling, are involved in this conversation, egging Saturn to expand these so-called limitations. Let's throw another twist into this cauldron of substance. Mercury, excuse me. Mercury, yes, good old Mercury, will be stationing to go direct on this same Thursday, and still within the energetic range of Pluto that it has danced across in retrograde over the past week, and will consume the next week in close proximity to this Lord of the underworld. Our thoughts are being invited to contemplate what is meant by terminal parameters, often utilized as control functions for humanity. You won't hear this offered by Pluto, whose main function is always to awaken us to the potential of vibrantly being alive, but are we so easily led astray in our haste to get ahead in this earthwalk journey we are on? And to what end? Or is there really an end factor in play? Mercurial mullings currently stir this deep cauldron of our version of reality. Turn the page. And we find ourselves being entertained on Friday the 4th as the sun comes into direct contact with Saturn. More in bulk. You see, it's right there on 15 degrees. Does the sun's draw attempt to pull up the buried seeds awaiting spring? Can the Saturn cauldron contain this solar influx of Aquarian energy? Two factors could be pondered here. The substance within Saturn's cauldron is going to be heated beyond levels where normal containment can withstand. At the same time, there's a transmutation of the energy substance available that seeks to evolve beyond any fields of containment. The sun, as king or ruler, because that's what it stands for, among other things, directly stands between Saturn and the Earth. If you were looking at the solar system from on top, you would see Saturn way out here on the other side of the sun, then the sun, and then the Earth on the opposite side of the sun. Contemplation. Might there be an infusion of regal energy directing Saturn to aim its control functions to be more inclusive? You can kind of see I'm throwing some questions out this week, because these are answers that, you know, while I have my own interpretation of what they mean, I think it's something that each of us needs to meditate upon and find our own particular path to follow. Well, at one level, I was tempted to say a more humanitarian, when we were talking about that previous thing, regal energy from Saturn and its control function. A strong voice compelled me to not be so callous as to leave out the rest of the natural world as vitally significant to our human endeavors, even if mostly unconscious. So questions for this week. I'm off script now, by the way. More questions than answers, I think, because we're in a time of dynamic change that is in the air that I think it's going to require a lot more from us than we may be used to. During this last week, I got to see the first of 10 episodes of a movie called Changing of the Gods, which was put together by Rick Tarnas, and Barry something or other was the author. His last name, unfortunately, was sitting right behind the chat box thing at the bottom of the window when I was watching it, and it started with an O. Anyway, Barry O, who'd been working on this presentation for about 9 years with the help of Rick Tarnas and some other people. Phenomenal, and unfortunately, or maybe it's fortunate, that the movie's not being made available in movie theaters because of their concern that when you turn over your project to the traditional theater paradigm, they basically have the control factor over what they do with it. They may decide to show it once or not even show it at all. And the messages, the vital importance and significance of what it was that is considered astrologically and shamanically, and at a very humanitarian level, for ways to facilitate meaningful change going forward that will assist in the development of more of a community presence as being one of the more vital aspects of an effective tool to correcting the aim or readjusting the rudder on humanity's plunge forward into the future with a broader and more encompassing aim at all of nature, not just we as humans, which we have obviously demonstrated our abilities and perhaps lack of concern for what happens to the rest of the natural environment that we happen to be, a part of, not just there for our benefit, but there as something that we actually have the responsibility for tending and caring to. Anyway, it was a very powerful consideration. And like I said, we watched the first of 10 episodes. And then right after watching this, the Rick Tarnas, his daughter Becca, and Barry began a conversation with Amanda Walsh, Amanda Poole Walsh being the narrator and also the main focal person from AstroHub, which is the organization that is showing this movie, came on, and they talked for another hour and a half, almost an hour and a half, which was absolutely unbelievably amazing to, just to tap into the mind of Barry as he was contemplating the different aspects of what he wanted to demonstrate and show through this movie format. And then, of course, with Rick and Becca's input from the astrological side of the equation to expand and expound upon the dynamics of the energy that signature that is currently underway here on planet Earth. I'm actually looking forward to the next 9 episodes of this movie because the first one was just absolutely phenomenal. That was Thursday. And then Friday, I began the day quite early here with being interviewed by Wasama Isir, who's an astrologer, shamanic person who I've run across through some of my shamanic studies, and who lives in London. And she tapped me on the shoulder last week and said, "Hey, Jeff, how would you like to be interviewed by me? And the subject matter is death." And I went, "Oh, awesome. That would be great." And she says, "Well, let's do it Friday." I said, "Friday would be perfect. That's my birthday. And, considering I was born 73 years ago on a Friday, birth and death, yeah, there's something that's connecting those two realities. Yeah, bookends of a life cycle, but, so much more. Because death is a transitional experience. Death is required for the next birthing experience to actually get underway. So that was just, it was fun. And I have the link already posted on my website and will be including it for all you folks out in Facebook land and on my mailing list as well. And we went on from there. I had to do a shamanic journey to get ready for a repetition process that this group that Wasama's in, and with myself and some other people going rebooting or re-going through the course that we had presented by Hank Wesselman and Jill Kuykendall through 2020 and into 2021 until Hank passed away, which was, truly in one level, a sad experience, at another level, just such a dynamic level of energetic release and unfoldment for what it was that he offered over the past 40 years or so along the shamanic wavelength. And then after that, we went right into the Astro Hub consideration for the new moon and the first half of this next lunar cycle with Astro Hub. And it was a very busy day. So the week is ended. I've now given you a consideration for what my perspective is on the next week's astrological dance moves that we have on our plate. And by all means, where that new moon is going to transpire at 12 degrees of Aquarius, wherever that happens to be in your chart, what you do is you look and say, what house is that in? It's in Aquarius. So generally, innovation is on the table, but whatever house it's in is going to flavor what kind of energy to aim at. And, some people make complaints, but Mercury's retrograde, it's so hard to think and stuff. And it's still Mercury, forward or retrograde. It is our thinking process. It's just been dancing through Aquarius. As a matter of fact, today, if I look at today, I've got another chart open up here. Yeah, it's dancing right now with Pluto, and came into that particular degree with Pluto yesterday on my birthday, and made an excellent opportunity to, one, Mercury, talk, think, and come up with some ideas about Pluto, the Lord of the underworld. I wonder how this could have gone. It was fun. It was actually a delightful consideration of aspects of the death cycle that people don't necessarily go out of their way to investigate. Normally it's held well beyond arm's length. So where's that new moon going to take place for you? For me, it's in my 12th house in Aquarius. Now, the 12th house new moon, I'm just going to throw this one out there for you real quickly. the 12th house new moon is when, of all the lunar cycles that you have, that particular new moon that starts in your 12th house, anybody who has Aquarius in their 12th house, 12 degrees of Aquarius in their 12th house, that is the time of year when it is time to recharge your batteries so that you can effectively make it through the next annual cycle until that 12th house new moon comes around again. And recharging your batteries there's a lot of factors to contemplate related to that. One of them is kind of a clearing of the deck, getting rid of the superfluous stuff that may have been valuable to get you to where you are right now, but is really no longer useful. It's just kind of lingering around the edges, and to allow that stuff to just pass away, because you're getting ready. 12th house is right before the first house, and what you're doing is you're getting ready to plant a new seed. Oh, look, there's our Imbolc again. Seeds are in the earth, and when the spring equinox comes, when Aries, that first impulse of life shows up, it's like, whoa, the sun is pulling me to the surface. I need to sprout. But in the 12th house, you're actually preparing the seed, refining your thoughts, refining your energy in the creation of the seed. And this is a meditative process that it's deep and it's profound. Think of Pisces. This is conversations with Source. This is going as deep as you possibly can go. So wherever this particular new moon happens for you, is it 7th house? Are there matters of partnership that are being spun in an Aquarius fashion? How many more people can I get into my circle of friends? There's a good 7th house Aquarius consideration. And a new moon, I need to set my intentions to make sure I don't leave anybody vital out of that equation. Just a little extra, thing to contemplate, because wherever that new moon happens to be, that house is going to be very important in how you set your intentions for this particular lunar cycle. Well, so much for the free speech thing part. I'm ready to let you go and to think, how am I going to play this new moon? Is there something that in an Aquarian fashion I may need to think a little broader about? So enjoy this next week, and I will be back in the week following that to stir the cauldron one more time. Ciao for now.